Yo, what is up guys, Ghost here. Welcome back to another Delta Force video. In this one, we're going to be running through all of the important settings to change in the game. Some of them are more obvious than others. I'm going to make this as short and snappy as possible, but this is everything I change in the game to make it a better experience for me and just basically increase how effective you're going to be as a player. As always guys, make sure that you are subbed up for more Delta Force content. There should already be a tutorial guide there on the gunsmith, how to unlock weapon attachments, how to set up your weapons and calibrate them effectively so you're going to be doing the most amount of damage that you can on the battlefield. So make sure that you are subbed. Plenty more videos to come here soon. Okay, so without further ado, let's just jump straight in here. So hit escape, go to settings. Automatic airborne mantle, I like to have this off, but it's really personal preference. What this means is that if you're in the air and you sort of hook onto a corner of a barrel or a box or whatever it may be with your character, you're going to automatically mantle up there. Sometimes you don't want that to happen. Sometimes you want to be ducking down or falling down behind cover to be safe. And if you enter that mantle animation at the wrong time, that can very often result in your death. So I recommend just keeping this off. Scope magnification adapts automatically. You definitely want to have this on. This is basically your FOV ADS. So you can see at the moment, I'm at 120 FOV, and the zoom in here is very little as I scope in. If we go back into settings and we turn this off, it's way worse. I feel the game doesn't really convey exactly what this setting does too well. So you definitely want to make sure that that is on if you normally play with FOV ADS on. Here you can change your hit effects color if you want to. I think this is just because of the Chinese market. I keep mine at red here. Coming over to keyboard and mouse, here you can set up your mouse sensitivity. This is what I use at 1600 DPI, and I'm going to show you guys how I found my sensitivity from other games. I know a lot of you guys will probably have used this before, but it's a website here called, if it actually loads up, mousesensitivity.com. So all you do is you say you want to find your mouse sensitivity from, for me, it's Battlefield 2042. Mash that in there, and then this is the sensitivity I use at the moment, 1600 DPI. Obviously, you can see I've put this in before. I use 89 FOV. Bear in mind, in Battlefield 2042, this is vertical FOV. And then you want to make sure that you put config file, because I'm taking the sensitivity from the config file. If you guys are putting in a sensitivity here from in-game, then you want this to say in-game. Here we type in Delta Force. It's called Delta Force Hawk Ops still in here, but it doesn't really matter. Put in the same DPI, put in the same resolution. In this game, I'm using 120. So Delta Force uses horizontal FOV, whereas Battlefield uses vertical, but 89 vertical equates to 120 horizontal. And now we want it to output a in-game value for us. So this time we're going to leave this as in-game. And you'll see here it just spits out the correct settings that we need. So horizontal sensitivity and indeed vertical, you want to just leave that at 1. The monitor distance coefficient, we'll get into that in a minute, but that's like the default setting, just leave that as it is. And then the mouse sensitivity, it says I want 1.53. So the amount of centimeters here for a 360 is 26.2488, and it gets us pretty much near enough. It's like a tiny little bit out, but it's not really something you're going to notice. So if you're somebody that always uses the same sense for muscle memory's sake, then you definitely want to be using a website like that and finding the correct mouse sense. ADS sensitivity type, I just leave this as MDV only. I honestly don't really know what MDV stands for. Probably somebody in the comments is going to correct me. But you can change this to per zoom level. So if you want to change different sensitivities depending on the magnification, again, this is going to be mainly for snipers, you can do that. But I just leave it like that. I leave the sensitivity transition on ADS transition there as well. Invert aircraft vertical, I like to keep this on. For me, it's natural for air vehicles to have inverted flight. If you're somebody who doesn't usually use that though, you should probably turn that off. And then here we come down to the sensitivities for the various vehicles. Now, obviously you can tune these to your likings. I am going to be doing a separate video on vehicles, all of the vehicle settings I use and just how to play in vehicles in general. So stay tuned for that one. But basically, you can change ground vehicle sensitivities, so tanks and whatnot, aircraft, this is going to be your helicopter sense, and then gunner sensitivity, this is also going to be very important here as well. Coming over to controls and combat, there are a few things you want to change here. So I change lean left and right to a toggle, because as soon as you start sprinting, you're going to cancel the lean anyway, so it's not really that big of a deal to have it on a toggle. This is the big one. You want to come down to aim, and this will be toggle as default. For those of you who don't ADS with a toggle and you hold, like most people do, I think, you want to come and change this one to hold. This drove me absolutely nuts. I could not find this option anywhere. Firing mode, I actually changed to insert on my keyboard, so it's completely out of the way. I don't usually have much call to change the firing mode, and the main reason for this is I changed my exit vehicle button to B, which you're going to see in a minute, and whenever you do that in a vehicle, it will actually change your firing mode, which often changes it to single shot, which can result in embarrassing situations. So that's why I put that on insert. You don't have to do that if you don't want to change your vehicle bindings though. Okay, moving over to screen and interaction. First of all, on interact, rescue, and execute, click on show more here and change rescue to toggle. So rescuing is when you revive somebody, and if you put this as a toggle, you're just going to be able to click the button once, and you're not going to have to hold it in as you're reviving somebody. You can also then just toggle it again to cancel the revive, which is super handy. Same with give up. I changed this to a toggle so that when you hold spacebar to give up, if you don't want to get revived, you don't have to hold the spacebar the whole time. Really helps. So this is a bit of a controversial one, backpack and scoreboard. I only really play warfare, so the scoreboard only really applies to me. I put this on M, and then you're going to see further down here, there it is, I put the map on tab. So I prefer to open the big map with tab. That to me is a more important keybind to have close to my left hand. I don't need to be looking at the scoreboard all the time. I can easily just have that on M. However, unfortunately, this is the same keybind for the backpack. So if you're playing operations, then yeah, you probably want to have your backpack on tab, and then I wouldn't recommend changing this. Adjust minimap zoom, I put this to N. That's just the keybind that it has in Battlefield, and I'm used to that. I don't think N is used for anything else, so why not? And then as we come over to vehicle, at the moment there is one major keybind that I change, and that is enter exit vehicle. This is going to be set to F as default. And if you're a Battlefield player, you will know that in vehicles, F changes between your primary and your secondary weapon. So I encountered a lot of embarrassing situations where I just bailed out of the helicopter completely on accident by pressing F. Actually, even in Battlefield, the exit button is E, but I always change this to B because it's just too close to WASD. If you get in a little bit of a frantic moment in game and you accidentally hit E on your keyboard or you hit F, maybe it's just me because I use low profile keys, but I just prefer to change it to B. After all, you're not really going to need to exit a vehicle like in that much of a hurry. You can always reach down to the B key. So that's why I changed the single fire auto fire key away from B as well, because for some strange reason, if you hit B to exit the vehicle, it will also change your fire mode, and then you'll be using like single shot as soon as you jump out. You maybe go to engage an enemy and you fire off one shot when you're holding the mouse button instead of going full auto. Okay, coming onto screen here, show performance parameters. I just leave this on. It's nice to see your ping and your FPS and all that good stuff. When it comes to the minimap, I turn rotating minimap on. This is what I think most people are going to be used to. I don't know why it's off as default, but you probably want to go ahead and turn this on unless you don't like the minimap to rotate when you rotate. Then you've got all of your distances. Now, these are going to be completely personal preference. So here we've got infantry view distance on the minimap, ground vehicle, and then for aircraft. I've bumped all of these up by about 20, and I believe they're set up as default for somebody who plays on a 24-inch monitor. I play on a 32-inch monitor, so because of that, I've increased their size a little bit so I can see a little bit more on the minimap. But I definitely recommend playing around with this, playing around with the icon size here as well. If things are getting a little bit too big, you've got too many icons in a small concentrated area, you can always reduce the icon size and increase how much you can see of the minimap. That's sometimes a good idea. Coming over to graphics, honestly, performance for me has been so good in this game. I used to turn all these settings down to low, but now I've got 144 Hz refresh rate, so that's what I stay at here in the in-match frame cap rate. And basically, I'm pretty much solid at that refresh rate with everything on Ultra. Now, this is again going to be personal preference. It depends completely what kind of graphics card you have. As you can see, I've got plenty of VRAM. If you have like an 8 gig card or even lower than that, then yeah, you're probably going to want to turn some of these options down. The ones I recommend keeping on fairly high to maybe Ultra though are the texture filtering, like reflections, ambient occlusion, particles, distortion, You don't really need to bother with those. You can turn those down if you need more performance. Scene view distance, you also want to have fairly high as well, because that's going to allow you to see things off at a distance, and it's going to stop some of that popping. Shaders and textures, again, you want to have fairly high, and streaming, I think, also. And then when we got to shadows, you can turn down shadows and shadow map, post-processing, volumetric fog. All this stuff is just really, extra eye candy, so you can turn a lot of that down and gain some extra frames if you feel like you need to. NVIDIA Reflex low latency, I use low latency mode here, not enhanced, and I found that's what works best for me. Over in the audio tab, this is a setting here which I've heard a lot of people love, HRTF. I recommend playing around with it, and I think this is largely going to depend on what kind of headphones you have. If, like most people, you have a gaming headset, which isn't like an audiophile, like proper, quote unquote, proper headset, then you might want to have this on and you may hear better footsteps. If you're using like a high-end Sennheiser pair of cans that are more for audiophiles, then you probably want to turn this off and just get more of a raw audio experience. The headphones that you're already using should be able to give you proper situational awareness in terms of footsteps and things like that. But again, just play around with it, see which sounds better to you, and use whichever one you want. Music, I turn down all the way to 20, and in some situations I just turn it all the way off, mostly because there is no setting here to stop the sound from playing when you tab out of the game. So if you're in the menus, the music is playing pretty much constantly, and if you tab out to a YouTube video, it's just so annoying that it's playing all the time there. So I turn this off. I do kind of like it in-game though, so it's sad that we don't have separate sliders for in-game music and in-menu music. And then the voice volume, I turn that down to 50% because the announcer in-game is very, very loud and can sometimes mask enemy footsteps and things like that. But you still want to be able to hear the announcer at the same time. And then last but not least, of course, we have voice chat. You can go ahead and just turn everything off here if you want. Nice little keybind, by the way. If you are in a match and you just don't want to hear your squad mates, hit Control and M. That will mute all of your squad mates, so you don't have to necessarily come here and disable voice chat if it's just for the sake of one round. And that is about going to do it, guys. Those are all of the settings I change in the game. Like I said, I will be making a separate video for vehicle settings and also just how to use the vehicles in general. So make sure you are subbed up if you want to catch that one as well. But otherwise, good luck in Delta Force. I wish you the best. Good luck out there. And I will see you guys in the next video.